What's up, y'all? My name's ALIZA TESSLER. I'm a competitive powerlifter, bench press national champion, and world's competitor, and first Phorm athlete. We're out here at Madhouse Gains Asylum in Los Angeles, California, and today I'm going to take you through a bench press workout geared towards powerlifters. We'll go through tips and tricks, what's worked for me, maybe something you can implement into your own workout. So thanks for tuning in. Now let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with a pretty generalized warm-up, and of course I'm going to sip my first Phorm energy. While I'm doing that, you do want to be drinking your energy drinks or pre-workout about, I'd say 30 to 45 minutes before your workout, before your top tier lifts, just because it takes a little while for the caffeine to get absorbed and start hitting. Something you'll notice when I'm warming up is that I'm not just warming up my upper body, I'm warming up my full body. And again, that's because we're trying to utilize as much muscle in our body when we're benching because we want to push as much weight as possible. Our workouts aren't necessarily geared for hypertrophy. Like, I'm not benching today to get my chest as big as possible. I'm trying to get my bench press, the number, as high as possible. So I'm going to use whatever I'm able to get that number bigger within the confines of the federation I compete in, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Today I'm going to be using a combo rack. To adjust it, you would kind of use this lever, put it under, and then it'll go up or down, and there's normally a second pin to put it wherever you need it, but we don't have that second pin here today. The grip that I use when I bench is going to be a wide grip. So the widest legal grip that you could have in the federation I compete in is that your pointer finger has to be on this ring. And I'm gonna go ahead and test out this rack's height. You don't really want this too low because right now it's going to take a lot of energy for me to unrack the bar because there's so much space above it. So right now when I push up, I'm able to easily get the barbell off of the arms, but it doesn't take too much energy to get it up because all I really need to do is apply a little bit of pressure. Let's talk about our first warm-up set. Number one, I'm gonna take my sweatshirt off. I'm actually probably gonna take my shirt off because I don't want to slide off the bench.
You got some lipstick on your shirt.
No.
Yeah?
Really? Oh, look, we're twins. So when I'm competing, I'm going to be wearing a singlet. You've got a competition t-shirt underneath the singlet. I tried to have as much skin touching the bench so that I slide a little bit less. The other cool thing in powerlifting meets is that the bench is going to face away from the audience so that they're not peering into your nether regions. When you lay down on the bench, you're gonna want your eyes right behind the bar. And then you set your grip up. Drive your shoulder blades down to the bench. That's already going to create an arch, but I'm trying to maximize my arch. So I'm going to lift my hips up, push the bar off, and then lower my hips down. In powerlifting competitions, there are a couple of rules that you have to follow in terms of touch points. So there's 5 touch points. Your head needs to touch the bench. Your upper back / shoulders need to touch the bench. Your glutes need to touch the bench, and then your feet need to be flat on the floor. So you can't have your heels up. There are some federations that allow it, but the one I compete in, can't have your heels up, feet need to be flat on the floor. And as long as that's happening, your positioning on the bench is legal. So this bar is gonna be about 70 kilos or about 154 pounds. This is a weight that I'm very comfortable with. I know how to safely fail it if I were to fail it. So I don't really need a spotter or safety arms for this specific weight. As the weights get heavier and as you try new things, you always want to be using safety precautions. So my maximum bench press, the highest I've ever done, is 248 pounds or 112.5 kilograms. Like I could rep this out. I could do 15, 20 of this weight. So you want your first warm-up set to be very, very easy. Well, you want your first warm-up set to be just the bar. Then your next one should be extremely easy. How you warm up, what weight you warm up with is going to vary from person to person. And today's program does have that 3-count pause on my chest. So I'm going to be pausing on my chest for a little bit longer, and that's going to make it a little bit harder, keep the muscles under tension for a little bit longer. So we're gonna bring it down to my chest. I'm focusing on keeping tension in my chest so that I don't lose it. Because if you go loose down here, it gets a lot harder to get the barbell back up. So you kind of want to keep tension, not just in your chest and triceps, but also in your lats, and keep your positioning throughout. Something that you see commonly as bench gets a little bit harder, and especially if you're flat back benching, you'll see people kind of move out of that flat back form and go into the arched back form, usually with their hips up, trying to get that last rep. And we want to avoid that. In a powerlifting meet, that would disqualify you from getting the lift. Something you don't want to be doing every workout is maxing out. That increases your rate of injury, or at least risk of injury. And also, it's not sustainable. And more importantly, you will never see growth if you're always maxing out, especially with heavier weights. You can definitely push your accessories to failure sometimes, but when you're trying to add weight and get stronger, you can't be fatigued all the time. And I'm gonna be going to about 80 to 85% of my 1 rep max, which is going to be, I already did the math on this one, 95 kilos. And if you need that in pounds, you'd multiply by 2.2046 if you want to be super precise. So I'm doing about 211 pounds today. Not crazy, but that's where you see the growth. This is gonna be taking the bar to about 80 kilos. Well, to 80 kilos, which is about 176 pounds. Another reason you kind of want to practice this with pauses on your chest is because in powerlifting competitions, there are different commands for a bench press. So you'll unrack the weight. The ref will say start. You'll bring the bar down to your chest. They'll say press. You'll press the bar up, and then they'll say rack, and then you rack the bar. So there's 3 commands for bench. If they're taking a little too long with the press command, that bar has to be motionless on your chest. So if you're wiggling it around, if it's not touching, they're not going to give you that command. You could end up being down there longer than you anticipate. So I would recommend against doing touch and go training where you just kind of bounce the bar up, because that's not going to translate over well to competitions. I remember when like the dances were like super in like the... So this set is going to be a little bit heavier. It's a little bit closer to my max. I do have Brendan keeping an eye on me. I know that if I rest this on my chest, I'm not going to die. So just so you know, I'm perfectly safe even if I do fail. And I'm not going to fail this. What I do want you to pay attention to when I do this is my lat engagement. You're going to notice I pull my shoulders down and back and squeeze my lats. And also focus on my leg engagement. So when I'm benching and I'm pushing up, I'm actually pushing forward and down into the floor to get my glutes engaged, get my hamstrings working, but still keeping your glutes on the bench. Because again, glutes come up, lift is disqualified, that's 3 red lights. Now normally I would consider this egregious plate loading, but I've been powerlifting for long enough that it's okay. It's all right. This is half the weight of this. They say the same number, but this is half the weight.
He kind of looks like you.
That's my twin. In the IPF, the federation I compete in, there is a rule about how low your elbows have to go for your bench to be considered a legal bench. But your elbow needs to come in line with your shoulder. So that would be illegal, that would be illegal, but that's legal. The reason that we're taking a longer rest period between sets than say a bodybuilder would is we're usually pushing maximal or close to maximal weight. And we want to give our muscles enough time to recover so that each set goes as well as the first set did. But you definitely want to give your muscle that recovery period. The other reason that is less talked about is when you're doing a powerlifting meet, there will be times that you're waiting 10 minutes between sets just because you go out, you do your lift, and then the other lifters will come, they'll do their lifts. And there could be big flights of lifters. There could be, 10, 15 other lifters in the same flight as you. So you might end up waiting quite some time. Is arching when you bench press cheating? And honestly, kind of. It does decrease your range of motion for some people more than others. For me, I've actually measured and it's about a 4-inch decrease in range of motion. But what I will say is if the sport that you're competing in allows you to arch and it's within the rules of the sport, it's not really cheating. It's using what you're able to do to your advantage. The other thing I'll say about arching is it is a lot easier to keep your shoulders in that down and back position, which some would say is better for your shoulder joints. So you hit that arch. When I unrack, I raise my hips up, makes it easier to unrack, drop the hips down. Then you'll see my lats work, you'll see my legs work, and then as it gets harder, you can kind of push into the floor more, use more legs. And there you have it, arch if you can. That's all I'm saying. All right, thank y'all for coming along for my little bench tips and tutorial. I'm gonna grab some post-workout. My favorite is Formula 1. And of course, creatine. This just helps you produce more energy. It's really great. It's really great for powerlifters. Be sure to comment if there's any other topics you'd want me to cover in powerlifting or fitness. And also keep a lookout for the rest of this series. I'm gonna be showing you how to squat and deadlift like a powerlifter too. That's all. See ya.